Hello, everybody. Hi, and welcome to today's discussion with Aquino Reed CPAs, LLP, out of Clifton, New Jersey. And with me today, I have the distinct honor of welcoming Peter Aquino, CPA, and Chris Reed, CPA as well, too. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tina Powell, and I help to facilitate some of the marketing and communications and today's broadcast. So this is meant to help you. We are really excited at Aquino Reed. I know that we've been getting a lot of questions related to the Payment Protection Program, all kinds of tax questions. And who better than to address those questions than Peter Aquino and Chris Reed today. So thank you in advance for your time and attention today. And understand that today's broadcast is on May 14th, 2020 at 11:08 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Laws and things change continuously. So please, to get the most up-to-date information, contact us directly. Again, we're bringing you information that's current as of 5/14/2020. So let me begin right now with you, Peter. There's so many nuances related to the Paycheck Protection Program. You know, what do small business owners need to be made aware of as it relates to funds used for these programs and even eligibility? Can you kind of explain and give us a lay of the land here?
Tina, thank you for taking the time to get this information out to the public and to our clients that have been supporting us during this difficult period. And we're happy to be able to also help them and support them however we can. And when this program first came out, we, Chris and I, we took it to heart like we do with all our clients, because it doesn't matter on the size of the client. I mean, we're here for all our clients. They all mean something to us, and we stepped up to the plate immediately, and we had to get up to speed with what the regulations were, spelling out, and then relay this message to the client, and then put the time into doing all the calculations that we needed to figure out how much the clients were entitled to receive as a loan, and if it made sense for them to go ahead and do so. Like Chris had mentioned in the past, not every client, this PPP program, this Paycheck Protection Program doesn't, it's not a one size fits all. Not every client, this is the best route to take. We have another act that came into effect also, where it allows for the clients to be able to determine whether it makes more sense for them to take the employee retention credit. So we have to go and do an exercise, calculate to see what's best for the client. But what is this? What are these funds used for? The idea is for the client to use these funds to keep everybody at hold, to keep the employees at hold, to keep things flowing, to allow them not to have to go to unemployment. So that is my understanding. That's what some of our clients are doing. We were able to obtain these loans for, in my particular case, about 68.3% of the clients that we submitted the loan applications for, they were able to obtain the loans. And
that's a great statistic, by the way. I want to say that because a lot of the news in the media, we've been hearing actually negativity and how people have not had success even achieving that. So a 68.3% a rate. That's congratulations on that. You guys are doing really good there.
Thank you. And I got to say, during the first round of fundings that came out, I was discouraged. I mean, I was asking Chris every other day, how you making out with the loans that you submitted? And he has also some successful, stories as well. But at first, I couldn't get not one of my clients to get a loan.
Right.
And the funds the funds ran out so quick. I couldn't understand that. So I was very discouraged. But when they came out with the second round, we were already in the queue, and lo and behold, we started getting the calls. I mean, we have clients that receive loans from $10,000 to $200 and something thousand. We have one that received even significantly more than that. So, the idea is for the clients to use these funds to keep everything going, to keep the employees whole, to keep them working however they can. And if they're not allowed to work, at least have a check so that they can continue paying their own personal expenses at home. And of course, for the employer to be able to use part of those funds. 75% of the funds have to be used for payroll. That's why Paycheck Protection Program. And then the other 25% could be used for, whether you have your own rent for the office or for the location, whether it's a mortgage, whether it's for insurance, for payroll taxes. So that's what it's supposed to be used for.
Thank you for that. Hey, Chris, what do you want to say along those lines?
I think it's important to note, like Peter said, the majority of the clients initially, when we were on top and advising them, a lot of them didn't even realize that this program was even in existence. They had no idea what it really was involved. We had explained to them, basically, this is availed to you at relatively little or no cost. It was provided by the federal government to assist you in retaining your employees during the period of the COVID. And it's really not based on employees, it's based on number of jobs. And they wanted to maintain a certain level of jobs during this period up through 8 weeks after you get funded. Most of those will probably be somewhere at the end of June, beginning of July for that 8-week period that they're concerned about. The first round, there were very few. I think also a lot of the banks really didn't understand because they weren't getting the full regulations from the federal government on what to do. We had to wait on them a little bit to be able to allow them to gather the information necessary to create the Paycheck Protection Program loan application online. Most of the stuff was done via online banking. So that was a little hurdle that we had to overcome. But on the second round, when they came with that second wave of $484 billion, as Peter mentioned, a lot of our clients were already in the queue. Why? Because we had already gone through the Paycheck Protection Program application with them, met with them, explained to them, got the necessary documentation to submit, which is very important, which I'm sure you'll allude to in a further question about having good books and records, because failure to have those types of documentation does not allow you to participate in this loan. We also had to go through a calculation because there's a break even at some point, whether or not it makes more sense to get the employee retention credit than take the loan.
Right. Explain for a minute the employee, because again, these are
there's a credit.
Things that
There's a credit availed to those companies that were unable to obtain a Paycheck Protection Program loan. Okay.
Right.
Certain companies may have been shut out. Certain companies may have just not been advised and not had taken advantage of, especially a lot of Schedule C's on the background, a lot of sole proprietors, partnerships. They may have not taken full advantage of, what was availed to them because simply they weren't aware of it. They had no understanding. Nobody told them. Nobody advised them. So we have been getting that out, and I'm still working on loans too until the government says that they're fully,
exhausted,
out of money. We're going to continue to submit. But to get back to your question initially, the employee retention credit is simply that. It's a credit applied to employers that were unable to participate in the protection program loan process. And the credit is equivalent to 50% of the first $10,000 of wages for each employee. So that will also alleviate a lot of clients who may have attempted to keep employees on payroll, keeping them current,
right,
not laying them off, this, that, and the other thing. Well, now all of a sudden I built up this huge tax liability and I don't have the funding to pay it.
Right.
So how is the government going to assist me? Well, they allow that in that you're allowed to take an employee tax credit equivalent, as I said, to 50% of the first 10,000 of wages. Now, you can either take that on an IRS Form 941, employees' quarterly federal payroll tax return, and this is all extended for wages post March 12th through
31st.
December 31, 2020. And you can take that on the 941 on the payroll, and if they have an outside payroll company like an ADP or a Paychex, they're fully aware of this. Additionally, besides taking it that way, if a client is in desperate need or they're paying their payroll taxes, they're still availed to it by filing IRS Form 7200, which is totally something, a new form that's come out. It's an advance payment on credits on these employee tax credits as a result of the COVID-19 crisis. So they can submit that form and get money from the government to basically assist them. And so all in all, what we really want to make sure that everybody understands is that all hope is not lost. You didn't miss the boat.
Right, right. I love that. I love
still
that.
options available to you, but at the end of the day, you have to be aware of them.
Right.
You have to be advised.
And not only that, it sounds from the work that you and Peter are doing, Chris, that you've done the calculations, because that is dependent what form of entity this business is, and that you've literally done the calculations to understand their books and records, whether or not they're going to be successful in that application. So I really like that you are offering help to the small business entrepreneur and to the business owner right now that might have had the door slam in their face. So to your point, all hope is not lost, but at the same time, they have to know what hope exists out there. And it sounds like it's a moving target, right? This Form 7200, who knew? I didn't know.
These are all,
right?
these are all under the CARES Act. And there's all sections about different, and these things are moving and adjusting every day. Laws are changing every day. You know, we also, I'm sure you'll get into it, about a big question now is, I just went through a calculation about the loan forgiveness aspect of the Paycheck Protection Program loan, is that, as Peter said, if you use it for at least 75% toward payroll and 25% toward overhead, such as rent, utilities, taxes, certain payroll, state and local payroll taxes, so forth and so on, you arguably do not have to repay that. The banks require you to sign a promissory note in the event that you don't use the money for its intended purpose, okay? But those loans, assuming that you don't, only bear interest rate at 1%, and you get a 6-month deferral. So even though it's a 2-year payout, you don't have to technically begin making payments until 6 months after you get funded, which is another way to help you with the cash flow. So the IRS and certain banks, right now, we're going through, there's not been a formal, quote unquote, formula released as to how they're going to determine the loan forgiveness. But I'm sure banks are working on that right now, because then what's going to happen after this period of time elapses, a lot of companies are going to go to the banks and they're going to request forgiveness of the loan, which, by the way, is not subject to income tax. Okay. Ordinarily, cancellation of indebtedness income is, but in this case, it is not. Okay.
That's very interesting.
So banks will require employers to submit documentation, proof that this is how I use the money, whether it be payroll checks, whether it be rent checks, whatever. But there's a disparity as far as 75 for payroll, 25 for everything else. Now, if you decide that, you know what, I'm better off taking this money, not using it, or maybe I don't qualify for the loan forgiveness, maybe I used it to refinance other debt. Okay, well then it becomes a loan and it's paid back at 1%. Okay, which in today's market, it's almost as if it's free money. So clients do appreciate that. They think they've made good decisions, and I'm not answering it. That's the phone.
It's okay. You're allowed to be on call. I think it's a good. I think it's a good break anyway. Peter, is there anything that you want to add?
No, the only other one thing I just want to mention is, besides the loan forgiveness aspect of it, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, is that, there's a calculation that has to be done, but there's also talk with the IRS now in IRS Notice 2020-32 that states that even though it could be a loan, it could be excluded from income under COD, the IRS is not allowing tax deductions for the use of those funds, for the use of payroll, rent, so forth. Why? Because they just feel that the use of tax-exempt income to create a tax deduction is a double dip. Although now, because that was the Congress's intent and the Senate's intent to do that, there's some pushback. So we still have to keep our eye on that. But for right now, it doesn't appear that you're going to be allowed to take a tax deduction for those expenditures, even though you may use them for the loan for its intended purpose. So that's something that you need to keep in the back of your mind.
I would be surprised. I would be surprised if they allow that to happen, where we would be able to take the deduction and also not include it as income. So that would be for the first time that would happen. I mean, we're going through some,
But I think that was the intent.
I think these are some, different circumstances, and who knows, it could happen.
Yeah.
But getting back to, one of the points that you brought up, Chris, and it's that it's important that the clients have good records, right? And that's where we come in, particularly we at Aquino Reed, we also provide not only tax compliance services, we also help those clients either 100% or partially. The client may take some responsibility for part of the accounting, and we may take some responsibility for some of the bookkeeping and accounting. We also take responsibility sometimes for certain clients to maintain their payroll compliance. We do provide payroll services to our clients, which allowed us during this time to quickly turn around and have the information available to be able to provide information, payroll, such, this type of information to the banks. Like I said, during the first round, they ran out of funds so quickly. I couldn't believe it, because we had information available to us. We were able to respond so quickly to some of these applications that I was shocked that other people were able to get the information quicker than us.
Yeah, when you guys were we're right there at the cusp when all of this started, between your notifications for your clients, the emails, the social media, the messages that you guys were also too. You were texting your clients, you're emailing, calling.
Crazy.
It was really a busy time. I remember that first week when all of the funding came out, and then boom. I mean, what was it? In a matter of days, it was exhausted.
Yeah, the banks weren't even. Some of the banks weren't even prepared yet.
Yes.
The money ran out before the banks were even prepared to for us to be able to send the information to them.
Yeah.
So I was surprised, because we were in a position to provide information to the banks in a very quick time frame. Why? Because we had the clients coming over to us on a monthly basis. We were preparing their payroll, and we had the information. So that's important, to have. And now it's even more important, because if we're going to request a forgiveness of this debt, you gotta have your books in order. It is what it is. People are not just going to, we're going to give the taxpayers money. The government is just not going to give taxpayers money, and you're not going to have books and records to support what you were requesting the loan for in the first place. So it's important more than ever to have good books and records, and we're available to help you out in that regard. We have many years of experience from not only in accounting but tax side, where we could help you create the right type of accounting system. It doesn't have to be QuickBooks. It could be other applications that meet your particular industry. And we could be able to help be part of that development. So those are the type of expertise that we provide small businesses with, Chris and I have over 50, it's getting closer to 55 to 60 years of experience already.
You don't look it.
But those are the experiences that we've been able to obtain during the years whether we were one of the big four accounting firms or with one of the Fortune 200 companies, that we were able to get involved with things like that.
Yeah. Chris, anything that you want to add to that? Again,
I think in addition, I mean, it became quite relevant that you had to have books and records, because banks were not going to deal with you unless you could upload, payroll returns, Schedule Cs. They also wanted documentation such as certificates of formation, certificates of incorporation, certificates of good standing. They were looking at a lot of different aspects to enable you to ascertain and obtain these loans. Of course, it all starts and begins with your books of original entry. As Peter mentioned, that's why we emphasize to clients the necessity for having good books and records, because honestly, at times like these, and it's unprecedented with what's going on right now, there's a lot of uncertainty about, both from a financial aspect as well as a health aspect, about what's happening. But the biggest thing that really amazed me, because when it first hit, it just absolutely amazed me that a lot of businesses didn't have reserves on hand, that they didn't have the credit availed to them, whether it be lines of credit or 2 months of operating expenses in reserves. And we preach this to our clients, save, have reserves, because you never know what's going to happen. And then to come out and find out all of a sudden, like for example, with the airline industry, 10 days before COVID-19 hits, everything's perfect. 10 days later, I need $50 billion.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Makes absolutely no sense.
That is crazy.
I think the other thing besides all this is our responsiveness to our clients' needs.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, we were on top of it right away.
Yeah.
We were there the same day that this came out. We knew exactly what was going on. We have great relationships with all major banks in the tri-state area, brokerage firms, law firms. So we ran the gamut as far as our contacts, and we're able to secure a lot of this information and then push it out to our clients so they were informed. And then obviously to be available for your clients, whether it be in the morning, at night, 24/7. We have internationally based clients, although this doesn't affect them per se, but if they have domestic entities that employ people here in the US, they're also would be eligible for this, for this type of
thing. And not only that, you're able to, so Chris, you're in the office right now in Clifton. Peter, you're in in St. Augustine. You're in a different location as well too. And that one of the things that always impressed me, and I'm in a different location, so we're all in various different parts of the universe here right now. But one of the things that I have always liked about Aquino and Reed is the ability to deal with you virtually, and also to the ability to upload my own things for my business through your client portal as a way to just keep, whether or not it's COVID or not. I know that I can go to I know that I could go to the secure client profile and find all of my information already organized in a certain kind of file structure. And that gives me certainty as a business owner. Do you both want to describe what types of businesses you work with and what that ideal client profile of the people that you serve? I think that would be very interesting for the people right now listening who may contemplate a, look, I mean, some people, quite honestly, some business owners are not happy in how their accounting firm and the people that, other financial representatives, but specifically their CPAs, have helped them through this crisis. You've been very successful at that. So talk a little bit about what that, the business owners that you're working with right now and that you want to work more, that need your types of services, especially right now.
Honestly, in talking about the secure portal and our ability to work remotely, this is really nothing new for us. We've been doing this for 25 plus years. We instituted this many years ago because we've been a visionary type moving forward firm in terms of even back in the day when women were having children, they wanted to try to balance both family and professional side. We used to use Citrix as a server to allow people to work from home. So when this hit, it kind of like was, okay, well, we've already got it in place. Whereas you experience right now, a lot of companies are having a lot of difficulty with dealing remotely, having people work from home, determining are their employees being productive and so forth and so on. For us, it was relatively easy because we have always worked this way.
We're already in place. We already had an infrastructure in place.
And we always worked with our clients like this. They always know that they can easily get us. Now, of course, with the access of Zoom, Skype, just being even at minimal, FaceTime,
Yeah.
FaceTime me. I can talk to you. Email, faxing. We don't really need to be face-to-face. Now, there are times when, yeah, maybe you need to be face-to-face and practice social distancing. But in reality, with the technology that's available today, it's unnecessary. I mean, we hold a lot of international conference calls using Zoom, whether they be in Brazil, Portugal, Kenya, wherever the companies are, they can access and they can, we can interact with them and provide everything that they need. So yes, that's a great thing. And as far as the clients are concerned, we have a tremendous practice in that the one thing that's unique about us and compared, I think, to a lot of other firms is that most people don't realize, but we're really entrepreneurs. We're CPAs, but we're really entrepreneurs. And we just happen to practice accounting, taxation, and consulting for a living. But yeah, we do run a business. And we take the position of the CFO and the CEO. So we know the issues that they're facing. And, we're available.
We can relate.
And we're available. And, I just yesterday, I just reached out to several attorneys. They got back to us because, a lot of them, one guy was working in his basement for a big firm. And I was like, and he referred us over some forensic accounting, 409 CAPA valuations on non-qualified stock options for startups. So there's a wide variety of things. It's not just compliance and doing 1040s. That's really a byproduct of what we do all year long. Okay. Of course, you have filing season. Most people say, oh, it's tax season. No, it's filing season. Our clients already know where they stand. Yeah. It's just a matter of filing the tax returns.
Right.
So, and that's from being in constant contact with them and being available 24/7 in certain cases, internationally based. It's not unusual to get, a text or an email at 3 or 4 in the morning from Spain or from the UK. It's just being available, even on weekends. Many times I'll have a conference call on Sunday afternoon outside in my backyard, and we'll talk about certain issues. People are working, and clients need to know that you're available and that you're here to assist them.
Love that.
Matter of fact, we got a call off of our Google ads from a client that owned a lot of hotels. It was a big construction company, and he called 4 or 5 CPA firms before us, and he turned around and said, "Wow, you guys are open?" I said, "Yeah, we haven't closed. We're essential workers. Even though we may be working remotely, there are times when we come in the office, but we are open for business." Because he had indicated that he had called and no answer.
Hard to get through.
Hard to get a hold of anybody.
Yeah.
And we had a nice conversation. So hopefully we'll be able to submit a proposal to that client, and we take it from there. So that kind of gives you a little gauge of, who we are, who we work with, what we do, and why we're a little bit unique in that regard.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Chris. And I am a client, so it is really a pleasure. And I love that you've been able to have conversations with me, the both of you, on weekends, because I'm an entrepreneur like you. You said it really best when you have that whole entrepreneurial DNA, and you understand that entrepreneurs are, we're right now working for our client, our customer. And so the fact that you make yourself available outside of those business hours really helps entrepreneurs as they manage. One of the last things that I wanted to ask, and I wanted to end with, being that, again, this is more of, we started out with that positivity and hope component. So do you both want to give us a quick story, and then, you know, we'll wrap it up with that, about, give us a success story for COVID-19 from a small business owner or a medium-sized business owner right now who Aquino and Reed has helped. Give us a ray of sunshine.
I think, listen, I think a success story could be anything that, it could be a small client that receives something, or a bigger client that receives something bigger. The idea that they receive some sort of relief is a success story for me, because like going back to what I mentioned earlier, when we didn't get any positive response during the first
Wave?
the first round of relief,
Yeah.
I was like, I couldn't believe this was happening. So, for me, I think it's great to be able to be here today and say that almost 68% of the money that we requested, we received for the client. So that's a success story for me, that we were able to get that much of the funds that we applied for to our clients. And they're prepared, and I'm sure those clients are going to be there for us through thick and thin, because we stopped everything else we were doing, and we focused on this, and we were able to continue to strive to get relief, and we're still doing it today. There are a few clients that have not received some relief as of yet. And I'm still looking for maybe another financial institution that might be able to
help them,
step in and help them out.
That's
so, but for the majority of the clients, I'm happy to say that we received what we requested. And, so to me, it didn't matter on the size. They received what they requested. Mm-hmm. And I don't think this is going to be the end of it. Honestly, I think there's going to be even another round where, there's going to be, some relief coming out. So we're going to continue doing this. So
Thank you.
I'm happy you took the time to allow us to give some more insight about not only the firm, what we do, but what we've been doing through this time with the Paycheck Protection Program, and if in fact they did not receive a loan through this outlet, we're going to look for other ways for them to get relief, whether it's through the employee retention credit, or something else that may come up later on, because
providing them a deferral of their employee tax deposits, things like that. It's all about timing. It's all about cash flow.
Yes.
It also allowed us to embark and engage in discussions about the necessity to make sure that you have reserves, and how you spend your money is just as important as earning your money. So that, along with the prerequisite of having good books and records.
Agreed.
Also in terms of, dealing with law firms who specialize in employment law, especially with a lot of things that are going on with unemployment. How do I retain my employees? What happens if my employees decide that for whatever reason they don't want to come back to work? Obviously, if we have this Paycheck Protection money and we have the availability, it's not, okay, I go back to my employees. Well, now they don't want to come back to work. They're still fearful. Well, then there's other issues that you have to deal with. It's a hot
topic right now.
It is a hot topic.
Well, maybe it's the topic for our next broadcast.
No, I'm just mentioning it. But you talk about success stories. I don't have the I don't have the details of 68.3% in front of me.
Yeah, but that's
All
a
I can
great
determine is that every client that I submitted a loan for,
number.
through the first round of financing by the government, it was very difficult.
But you were able to
Out
get
of that second wave,
Yeah.
I will say that everyone that I submitted or assisted in submitting a payroll protection program loan application was funded.
Right.
And a lot of them were not believers.
Mhm.
And, you know, it was funny because they would send me what is this? What's this link? Look at this link. Oh, hey, you got funded. You got to sign the promissory note and explanation. So I'm very happy to say, and most clients, they were not even aware. And when they found out, they were ecstatic. They think it's fantastic. And now it becomes about the wise use of those funds to enable them to make sure that, hey, if I can get this amount of money forgiven, that's great. Because it's a boon to me. It keeps me operational. And you know what? It's a good deal.
You know, Chris, one thing that we didn't even touch on was the fact that the relationships that you have with your bankers is so important. And we learned that during this.
It's not necessarily what you know, it's who you know.
You know, because, you know, if you're a representative of a community, as I have been for over 25 years within the Passaic County, Bergen County area, you're going to have a certain reputation.
Right.
And the banks, when they see that you're submitting some information on behalf of a client, they believe in what we're providing. They feel that they could, you know, they feel a little bit more comfortable.
They can rely on it.
They could rely on the work that we're submitting. So that's a very important thing. And it was more important during this experience than I've seen in many years.
Yeah.
Well, then also too, you also provide that international component, but that multilingual component as well too. You have a bilingual capability there as well too.
Which I got to tell you, it's very important. It was very important for some of my clients because they don't know how to defend themselves, you know, with the English language as we would like for them to do. But you know, that's why I decided to take on and go on, you know, on my own way back when, because I felt that the Hispanic community was becoming more sophisticated. And I was looking ahead. I was a young professional, but I said to myself, as I mature as a professional, the Hispanic market is going to become more sophisticated, and they're going to need someone with the type of background we have. And this is happening now. This has been happening over the last 10, 15 years. So yeah, they can't defend themselves, but we're here to make sure that, you know, that they're getting the service that they're supposed to be obtaining from a CPA, and that, you know, we have the relationships that, you know, are important to have to be able to get them, whether it's a loan from a bank or something else that they need to have completed for them, that we're able to complete it for them, and that whoever's receiving it can feel comfortable with what we're providing, you know, so.
It's an education process, and you know, that's really important, that you have to educate the clients to have them understand why these things are necessary. And they all desire to do the right thing, at least the clients that I've dealt with. And we've always said, Tina, as you know, we've had many conversations, business comes via relationships.
Yeah.
And we have relationships with bankers, lawyers, insurance agencies, all people of high integrity, retirement planners. So we can give our clients the whole picture, you know, with quality professional people that we trust. And we in turn now, as it's always stated, we are our most trusted advisor. And in our tagline, where all clients matter. CPAs you can trust, and where all clients matter. So it doesn't matter if you're a billionaire or the little bodega on the corner. I mean, as Peter said, I personally, look at me. Do I look Spanish? No, but I speak 4 languages.
Yeah.
Okay? I hablo portuguesa, Italiano, and of course I speak Spanish. Now, maybe I don't speak that great, but I speak enough.
You get the point across.
I get it.
To know
Okay,
that they
so
understand, that they can understand. and that's important.
That's great. Thank you for that. This has been fantastic. How do people get in contact with you, Chris? If they have a question, and then I'll ask the same thing of Peter. What's the best way for people to get in contact with you?
All of my clients have my cell phone, have my email address, have access to the firm's telephone information. There is no excuse not to be able to get a hold of me. As a matter of fact, my phone goes off almost 24 hours a day. So
we
thank God.
We saw that, right?
Yep.
Okay,
I mean, our website, if you go to our website, www.arcpallp.com, you can learn more about us personally.
Facebook.
You could subscribe to the newsletters where we have information coming out monthly. You have our emails there, so you can reach us, as well.
We're on Facebook and LinkedIn as well.
Yes. Okay.
Not
great.
LinkedIn, excuse me, Instagram.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
With LinkedIn about to come down
yes,
the pipe.
we're LinkedIn is almost there. You've had your individual LinkedIns, and now it's just a matter of adding one more thing, and things have been really busy for us. So I'm so grateful for your time today. I know that everybody listening is, and thank you so much for being available. Again, in the times of uncertainty right now, and this has been an incredible period of uncertainty. I myself love it that I can call with a question, and that now I have at least a secure footing on my business and on my cash flow and understanding what's going on in the current environment. So thank you all. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Aquino and Reed. And thank you for everyone listening. We'll do more of these. Please email us your suggestions. You can leave them here on our social media platforms too, what you want to see more of too. Again, this is something that we're introducing, and we hope that it provided value to you, and understand that your situation is unique. So please call us with questions related to your unique situation. And thank you all. On behalf of Aquino and Reed, everybody stay safe and be well. Thank you again for listening.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the time.